The Broken Gateway. The transport shuttle rattled through the final docking sequence with all the grace of a dropped wrench, and Marcus Webb gripped his seat restraints while wondering if his hazard pay was nearly adequate enough for this assignment. The viewport showed Horizon's Edge research outpost spinning slowly against the starfield, looking like someone had taken a perfectly functional station and introduced it to the business end of a debris field. "Docking complete," the pilot announced with the enthusiasm of someone reading a grocery list. "Try not to die in there." Marcus gathered his equipment cases and stepped through the airlock into what the briefing documents had optimistically called the main engineering hub. It looked like an engineering hub the way a tornado looked like a gentle breeze, technically accurate, but missing some crucial details about the current state of affairs. The lighting flickered in a pattern that suggested the power grid was held together by wishful thinking. Conduits hung from the ceiling at angles that made his engineering certification want to file a formal complaint. And somewhere in the distance, he could hear a rhythmic clanging that meant something important was definitely broken. "You must be the new engineer." Marcus turned toward the voice and felt his brain temporarily lose its ability to process information in any logical sequence. She stood near a bank of diagnostic panels, her attention focused on a holographic display that cast blue light across her features. Her skin was a deep, iridescent purple that shifted subtly with each movement, like the surface of some exotic gemstone, traced with luminescent silver patterns that flowed down her arms in designs too intricate to be anything but natural. Her dark hair was pulled back in a practical style that somehow still managed to look elegant. And when she glanced up from her work, violet eyes met his with an intensity that suggested she'd already calculated his mass, velocity, and probably usefulness. "Marcus Webb," he managed, extending his hand, "here to fix whatever's trying to kill everyone this week." "Dr. Kaya Thorne," she replied, her handshake firm and professional. "Zarathian Systems Specialist, and the list of things trying to kill everyone is longer than you'd prefer." She gestured for him to follow her down a corridor that clearly had seen better days, possibly better decades. The walls were scarred with hasty repair work and temporary patches that had become permanent through sheer stubbornness. "Welcome to Horizon's Edge," Kaya said, her voice carrying a dry humor that I immediately appreciated. "Where the environmental systems work when they feel like it, the artificial gravity has developed opinions about which sections deserve proper down direction, and the power grid routes electricity based on what I can only describe as spite and chaos theory." Marcus examined a junction box that appeared to be held together by improvised brackets and what might have been chewing gum. "That's not up to Federation safety standards." "Nothing here is up to Federation safety standards," Kaya replied. "The meteor strike 8 months ago didn't particularly care about compliance regulations. Our job is to restore functionality while preventing the station from achieving spontaneous disassembly." They entered the primary operations center, where holographic schematics floated above a central table, showing the station in various states of damage and proposed repair. 3 other technicians were scattered around the space, all wearing the particular expression of people who'd been fighting impossible problems for too long. "Everyone, this is Marcus Webb, our engineering consultant. Marcus, this is everyone. They're exhausted and will introduce themselves when they remember how social interaction works." A general murmur of acknowledgement rose from the assembled team. One person raised a coffee container in what might have been a greeting, or possibly just a tremor from caffeine overdose. Marcus moved to the holographic display, his eyes tracking power flow patterns and system stress points. He said, "Your primary issue is here," indicating a junction where 3 major conduits met. "You're trying to restore sections piecemeal, but the main distribution node is compromised. Everything you repair just overloads and fails again." Kaya stepped closer, near enough that he caught a faint scent like ozone and something floral he couldn't identify. "That's exactly what I told the Oversight Committee last month. They said the repair sequence was optimal and didn't require modification." "The repair sequence is wrong," Marcus said, pulling up the power flow calculations, his fingers moving through the holographic interface. "These numbers assume static load distribution, but you're on a research station with variable experimental equipment, And he paused, recalculating, felt his eyebrows rise. Wait, did someone actually account for the electromagnetic interference from the pulsar in this system? No, because that would require acknowledging that we're parked next to a cosmic lighthouse. But it matters. Marcus overlaid new data streams. Every rotation cycle, the EM pulses create fluctuations in your power grid. Over time, the surge protection degrades, and the whole system cascades toward failure. Kaya stared at the display, her violet eyes tracking the cascading failure points his calculations revealed. How did I miss that? You were probably too busy keeping everyone alive. She turned to look at me, and something in her expression shifted, a hint of a smile playing at the corners of her mouth. You know, Marcus Webb, I think you might actually be useful. That's the nicest thing anyone said to me all week. It's been a very long week, Kaya replied. Let's get coffee, and you can tell me exactly how wrong everyone's been about everything. I'll enjoy that immensely.
Calculations and chemistry. The coffee ritual began on day 5 and became as fundamental to station operations as functional life support. Every morning at 0600 hours, Marcus would find Kaya already occupying their designated corner table in the observation lounge, 2 steaming containers waiting, holographic schematics floating between them like luminous ghosts. I have a theory, Marcus said, settling into his seat on day 47. The station's environmental systems are achieving consciousness. Kaya didn't look up from the power distribution report she was annotating, her fingers moving through the holographic data with practiced precision. Based on what evidence? The temperature in Section D increased by 12 degrees yesterday, exactly when Rodriguez complained about being cold. The humidity in the Botanical Research Bay adjusts itself before anyone submits a request. And the waste recycling system? Please don't tell me about the waste recycling system before I finish my coffee. It started playing music. Old Earth compositions, classical period. Yesterday it was definitely something called Vivaldi. Kaya's hand paused mid-notation, her violet eyes lifting to meet his. What kind of music? Jenkins tried to override it, and the system locked him out for 9 hours. That's actually concerning. Kaya's lips twitched, fighting a smile that made Marcus's chest feel warm. Should I add prevent station uprising to our project timeline? Right after fix the thing in Module 6 that keeps humming, and before figure out why the gravity randomly inverts in the gymnasium. Their easy conversation was interrupted by Chen from Systems Engineering, who appeared at their table looking like someone who'd witnessed the heat death of the universe. We have a problem. Is it worse than the 14 problems we already have? Kaya asked. The power conduits for Research Wing C are 6 centimeters off specification. Marcus and Kaya exchanged glances. 6 centimeters? Marcus said carefully. 6, Chen confirmed, as though announcing the apocalypse. Chen, Kaya said gently, 6 centimeters is within acceptable variance for temporary installations. Not according to the new safety protocols headquarters just transmitted. We have to dismantle everything and start over. Chen looked like he might weep into the power conduits. 14 weeks of work gone! After Chen departed to contemplate his existence, Marcus leaned back in his chair. I am beginning to understand why the previous engineer left. Don't joke. I found him in Storage Bay E last month trying to explain quantum mechanics to a toolbox. Kaya pulled up their shared project timeline, and they both stared at the cascading series of deadlines that had just become impossible. We need a different approach. That was how they ended up working until 0400 hours, surrounded by coffee containers that had achieved structural integrity through sheer accumulation. The observation lounge had emptied hours ago, leaving them alone with holographic blueprints in the distant view of the pulsar, rotating slowly beyond the viewport, its rhythmic flashes painting the darkness with regular bursts of light. What if we classify it as experimental equipment instead of permanent infrastructure? Marcus said, his voice rough from hours of talking through calculations. Kaya had her feet tucked under her on the couch they'd claimed, her datapad balanced on her knees. Her purple skin seemed to glow faintly in the low light, the silver patterns catching reflections from the holograms. Explain. Experimental equipment has different safety classifications. Tolerances are wider because the specifications are expected to evolve. If we can convince headquarters that Research Wing C is technically a modular testing platform rather than fixed infrastructure, Chen 6 centimeters falls well within acceptable parameters. Kaya's eyes lit up with understanding. Marcus Webb, that's either brilliant or completely insane. I'm hoping for brilliant. We'll need to completely restructure the documentation, reclassify the load calculations, probably bribe someone at headquarters with actual Earth coffee instead of this recycled station approximation we've been drinking. I have 3 bags of the real thing in my quarters. Emergency supply. Kaya looked at him with something approaching reverence. You've been holding out on me for 6 weeks? I was saving it for a special occasion. Preventing Chen's complete psychological breakdown qualifies as special. She stood, stretching in a way that made Marcus very deliberately focus on the holographic display. Go get your contraband coffee. I'll draft the reclassification proposal. We can finish this tonight. They worked until the station's artificial dawn cycle began, fueled by actual Earth coffee, and the kind of creative problem-solving that only emerged when exhaustion bypassed the part of the brain that said things like, "That will never work," and "We'll get fired for this." At 5:23 hours, Kaya leaned back from her datapad and laughed. It was the first time Marcus had heard her really laugh, unguarded and delighted, the sound doing something pleasant to his cardiovascular system. This might actually work. It's going to work, Marcus said, with more confidence than he felt. You know what I appreciate about you? Kaya asked, her voice soft with tiredness. Everyone else on this station is 3 seconds from breakdown at any given moment, but you just look at impossible problems and start solving them. Marcus felt something warm settle in his chest. You do the same thing. We make a good team. The dream team, Marcus agreed. That's what Rodriguez called us yesterday. I heard that too. Kaya smiled at him, violet eyes catching the growing light from the viewport. I like it. They sat in comfortable silence, watching the station's sun simulation brighten through the observation windows, surrounded by evidence of their night's work. Marcus tried very hard not to think about how right this felt, how much he looked forward to these coffee meetings, and how the best part of his day was when Kaya laughed at something he said. This was professional. This was just 2 colleagues who worked well together. He was absolutely failing at believing that, but he'd worry about it later.
The confession. The certification came through on a Tuesday, which meant the artificial gravity was working properly for once. Headquarters approved the research wing completion with what Marcus suspected was genuine surprise that the station hadn't exploded, imploded, or developed any concerning consciousness issues in the process. We're having a celebration, announced Commander Torres at the morning briefing. A real one with actual alcohol that didn't come from Rodriguez's still in the maintenance bay. Rodriguez has a still? Kaya whispered to Marcus. You didn't know about Rodriguez's still? It's been the worst kept secret on the station for 2 months. I've been too busy keeping the station from killing everyone to pay attention to bootlegging operations. The celebration was scheduled for that evening in the observation deck, which had finally been restored to something approaching its original purpose rather than its previous role as large room where we store broken things. Marcus retreated to his quarters after the briefing, stared at his reflection, and had a serious conversation with himself about professional boundaries and appropriate workplace behavior. It went poorly. His reflection had no useful advice. He arrived at the celebration fashionably late, which meant exactly on time, but after enough people had gathered that he wouldn't be obviously lurking. The observation deck had been transformed with lighting that didn't flicker ominously and decorations that suggested someone had raided the station's emergency party supply cache. Music played from speakers that actually worked. People wore clothing that wasn't jumpsuits or environmental suits. Rodriguez was holding court near the refreshment table, presumably discussing his still with anyone who would listen. Marcus accepted a drink that tasted like it might have been synthesized from something that remembered being alcohol once, and tried not to scan the room for Kaya. He found her anyway. His eyes apparently had their own priorities that completely ignored his instructions. She stood near the viewport with a small group from the engineering team, and Marcus's brain temporarily forgot how to process sensory input. She wore a dress that caught the light, flowing and iridescent like her skin, making her shimmer like something from a dream his exhausted mind might have constructed from too many late nights and insufficient sleep. Her hair was down, falling past her shoulders, and the silver patterns on her arms seemed to glow in the starlight filtering through the viewport. Marcus took a long drink of his possibly alcohol beverage and reminded himself that staring was unprofessional. He lasted approximately 11 minutes before gravitating toward the viewport because apparently he had the willpower of a particularly weak-willed piece of space debris. "Webb!" Kaya's face lit up when she saw him, her skin doing that subtle color shift it did sometimes, deepening to richer purples and luminescent teals, colors Marcus had only seen in xenobiology texts, shifting and swirling like storms across her features. For 3 heartbeats that felt like 3 years, she just stared at him, lips parted, completely and utterly speechless.
Transformation and discovery. Marcus woke to find his entire body covered in subtle patterns of light that pulsed beneath his skin like living constellations. He sat up quickly, examining his arms in the morning light streaming through Zora's research station. "Don't panic," Zora said from across the room, her voice carrying traces of amusement through their mental bond. "It's a normal side effect of the bonding." "Well, normal might be overstating it. You're the first human to ever undergo the ritual, so I'm glowing?" Marcus finished, watching the patterns shift and swirl with his movements. "Great. That won't be hard to explain to my expedition command." Zora moved to his side, and he noticed she'd changed too. Her deep purple skin now held traces of warmer tones, hints of gold and amber that flickered like firelight beneath the surface. Her rigid, almost crystalline complexion had softened, becoming more expressive, more human. "We're adapting to each other," she explained, tracing one of the luminescent patterns on his chest. The touch sent pleasant shivers through both of them, amplified by their bond. "Your human biology is incorporating my species' quantum resonance. My cellular structure is becoming more flexible in response to your adaptability." Marcus caught her hand, marveling in how their energies intertwined where their skin met. "Is this permanent?" "I believe so," Zora replied, and through their connection he felt her fascination warring with scientific uncertainty. "Marcus, what we've done, it's going to change everything. When my people learn that a human successfully bonded with one of us, and not just bonded but achieved a deeper connection than any recorded in our history, they'll either celebrate or freak out, Marcus guessed. "Both, probably," Zora admitted with a slight smile. She sat beside him, their bodies naturally gravitating together. "I can feel you constantly now. Your curiosity, your wonder, her purple skin flushed darker. "Your desire. It's intoxicating." He pulled her closer, kissing her neck and feeling her response echo through their bond. "The feeling is extremely mutual. I've never felt so connected to anyone. It's like you're part of me now." "I am part of you," Zora breathed, as his hands explored her transformed skin, finding it more sensitive than before. "We're something new, Marcus. Something that shouldn't exist according to every biological law my people understand." Their kiss deepened, quickly becoming more heated. The bond between them amplified every sensation. Marcus experienced his touch through Zora's megasystem, while she felt her own caresses through his. They made love slowly this time, exploring their transformed bodies, discovering new sensitivities and responses. Marcus found that certain touches made Zora's skin pulse with brilliant light. She discovered that the bioluminescent patterns on his body responded to her emotions, glowing brighter when she felt pleasure or joy. Their connection allowed them to anticipate each other's needs perfectly, creating an intimacy that transcended anything either species had ever experienced before. Afterward, they lay intertwined, their breathing synchronized, their heartbeats falling into matching rhythms. "I need to show you something," Zora said suddenly, sitting up. Through their bond, Marcus felt her excitement tinged with nervousness. "The changes aren't just physical. Come with me." She led him outside to the jungle, now fully illuminated by both suns. The moment Marcus stepped into the vegetation, something extraordinary happened.
The plants responded to his presence, bending toward him, their bioluminescence pulsing in welcome. "You're connected to the quantum web now," Zora explained, wonder filling her voice. "The network that links all living things on this world. It took me 2 cycles to achieve even basic sensitivity to it. You've done it in days." Marcus closed his eyes, focusing on the sensations flowing through him. He could feel the jungle as a living entity, millions of interconnected consciousnesses forming a vast network of life. And somehow, he was part of it now. "This is incredible," he whispered, opening his eyes to find tears streaming down Zora's face. "Why are you crying?" ? "Because you're teaching my people something we'd forgotten," she said, her mental voice thick with emotion. "We became so advanced that we stopped truly connecting with the universe around us. We observe, we study, but we don't participate. You've been here less than a week, and you're already more integrated with this world than I am after 3 cycles." Marcus wiped away her tears gently. "Then let me teach you. Show me how to share this through our bond." They stood together in the jungle, hands clasped, and Marcus opened himself fully to the connection. Through their merged consciousness, he let Zora experience what he felt: the pulse of life surrounding them, the rhythm of the planet itself, the joy of simply existing as part of something greater. Zora gasped, her entire body lighting up with brilliant patterns. "Oh, Marcus, I see it now. I feel it. How did we lose this? How did my people become so isolated from the very thing we claim to study?" "Maybe you needed an outside perspective," Marcus suggested with a gentle smile. "Sometimes the most advanced thing you can do is remember how to be simple." A new future together. 3 weeks later, Marcus stood beside Zora in her research station, watching as a Vivian diplomatic vessel descended through the atmosphere. His rescue ship had arrived days ago, but he'd sent them away with a message that he was remaining on Vera 7 indefinitely. That decision apparently caught the attention of Zora's people. "They're going to study us like specimens," Zora said nervously, her hand finding his. Through their bond, Marcus felt her anxiety clearly. "Let them," Marcus replied, squeezing her hand. "We've got nothing to hide. What we have is real." The Vivian delegation was led by an elder named Thyron, whose deep purple skin was marked with silvery patterns denoting his age and status. His amber eyes widened when he saw them together, particularly when he noticed the matching bioluminescent patterns that marked them both as bonded. "Extraordinary," he breathed, circling them slowly. "The legends spoke of such bonds in ancient times, but we believed them mythological. A connection so deep it physically transforms both participants." "It's real, Elder," Zora said formally, though she did not release Marcus's hand. "And it's permanent. Marcus and I are bonded in ways that exceed any recorded in our history." Thyron reached out, touching Marcus's arm where the patterns glowed brightest. "The human has developed quantum sensitivity. Impossible. Your species lacks the neural structures necessary for such perception." "Had," Marcus corrected gently. "I had those limitations. The bonding changed me at a cellular level. I'm still human, but I'm also something more now." Through their connection, Marcus felt Zora's surge of love and pride. He smiled at her before continuing. "And Zora has changed too. Her people's rigid biology became more adaptive, more emotionally expressive. We've both been transformed by what we shared." Over the following days, the Vivian scientists conducted extensive tests, their amazement growing with each result. The bond between Marcus and Zora was unprecedented. They could communicate across distances without technology, sense each other's physical and emotional states perfectly, and their connection to Vera 7's quantum web had deepened to levels that typically took Vivian masters decades to achieve. "Your species possesses something we lost millennia ago," Thyron told Marcus during one evening meal. "Raw adaptability, emotional intensity, the willingness to embrace change rather than merely study it. Perhaps in our pursuit of advancement, we forgot what it means to truly live." "So what happens now?" Marcus asked, glancing at Zora. "Do we become some kind of science experiment?" Thyron's expression softened. We were hoping you might become something else entirely. Ambassadors. Proof that our species can not only coexist but thrive together. The galaxy has kept humans and Vivians largely separate due to our biological incompatibility. You've proven that incompatibility was merely assumption. Marcus felt Zora's excitement flare through their bond. You're saying... I'm saying that Council wishes to establish formal relations with humanity, and they believe a bonded pair, one human, one Vivian, would be the perfect representatives for this new era. If you're willing. Marcus turned to Zora, speaking through their mental connection. What do you think? Ready to change the galaxy? Her response was immediate and filled with warmth. With you, I'm ready for anything. They accepted the position, and over the following months, Marcus and Zora became the faces of human-Vivian cooperation. They traveled between worlds sharing their story, demonstrating the possibilities that opened when different species truly connected. Scientists from both civilizations studied their bond, learning from it, attempting to replicate the conditions that had allowed such a deep union. Some succeeded. Slowly, carefully, other human-Vivian bonds began to form. Each was unique, but all shared the fundamental transformation that Marcus and Zora had experienced, a genuine merging of two beings into something greater than either alone. On the anniversary of their bonding, they returned to Vera 7, to the sacred grove where it had all begun. The crystalline pillars still hummed their ancient song, and the silver moss glowed beneath their feet as they stood in the circle once more. I never imagined my research would lead to this, Zora said, leaning against Marcus as they watched the twin moons rise. I came here to study plants and ended up discovering... Love? ? Marcus suggested with a gentle smile. More than love, Zora